what's revealed in this documentation is basically all the documentations and oaths and bindings and pacts and all of the stuff that they've written up on the U.S. citizens and even some abroad, especially the Native Americans, has been deleted and depleted. And it's important for now, just like with anything, for us to start realizing, and this is just another example, I'm sure your oversoul will come up with a million examples to explain to you, you're free now, that you're ready to emancipate and expand, and it's only the inclinations or the tunnels that are behind you of you not letting go of certain anchors and things and certain tubes that are connected to you from various life forms, energies, entities, etc. That's not allowing you to progress into the higher frequency, which is a harmonic. It's not what we call a higher or lower. It's actually when the both forces have merged and are now, the birth of both of those forces is now at play or at the control point. So you would see that happening anyway, despite our experiences here in the reality. We've actually come in contact with, I believe, a life form that was attempting to save its race by blending it into our race. And we inherited their idea of death. Because, of course, if another race thinks it's going to be extinct soon, then it hasn't understood completely how this entire universe is really put together. There's no such thing as extinction. There's only transition. So do see that now, not even so-called controllers anymore, but basically the malevolent faction that's on the dimension that's subject to be dismissed at any point has been acting like children in the sense that what they're doing is not something that graduated beings do. So this also means that graduated beings have already done this, meaning that graduated beings had already been through the point of where they had absolute power and they started commanding other smaller beings underneath the microscope or in the tunnels, basically going down into the timelines, into the past where nobody's discovered electricity and things like that, and then reigning amongst these people as if they're gods because you've understood that you're hyperdimensional and have a correspondent in every timeline. So if people want to understand, well, how does one get control of the past? It is by becoming fully conscious in their past life and then start running things from there with the information that they've collected from the future. And believe it or not, many of us are beginning to do that. So before we get the show absolutely started today, I want to remind everyone about the Resistance Directive. And let me get that up on the screen here. And the Resistance Directive is, of course, what we really want to embody here. And this is, of course, it enhances itself from time to time, but we want to embody to embolden the human spirit to become limitless, because you can't understand where things come from. You always think that there is a mother to something or a father to something or a big bang to something, and you can't realize what comes before that. That period before that is called limitless. So we want people to begin to expand into that because it gives them an immense level of energy to power through this sluggish, dense reality that we're in now. The second thing is to seek universal adequation for all sentient life. There is a compassion that you need to inherit in order to activate that heart chakra. And that compassion has to have you looking at the more harmonic you become, everything is on the same level because it's all contributing to life. And if we remove it for any reason, then we may face an imbalance. And in fact, with our Earth being on a wobble, we have faced an imbalance because the truth has not been told, okay, in its entirety, like by someone that is respected enough for people to say, oh, okay, thank you, Father, thank you, Mother, or now it's King, thank you, King, for telling us we respect what you say because you're the leader of this world, so that's what we believe. That hasn't happened in this particular reality that we're in, but we have to make it happen. The second thing is to be gratuitous. When the event rises, considering another spiritual expansion over material gain. It's a simple formula. If you give away what you have, then it puts you in a position to get more. It's a constant cycling. So if you hold on to something, it actually bottlenecks your currency and is related to your current. So it's about where you're planting your seeds, though. And then when you reap your harvest, if it's abundant, then you keep reaping a more abundant harvest. But still consider that that is the direction. You're not to set out on any ventures that actually involve, for other people, that actually involve your own personal material gain. So remember, there's laws of physics, if you want to go to that, and laws of math, if you want to go to that, and laws of the universe, if you want to go to that, that show you how those two elements are so irate, they never really mix together. So the next thing is to reach wholeness. Knowing that all is self despite any division one may face along the path. We're on the path. No one is no one knows everything here, nor will no one ever convince me of it, because to convince someone or something that you know everything is to put upon them limitation. Why? Because there's no such thing as everything. If a person says, I know everything, well, wait a minute, things are constantly created. So to say you know everything would mean you need to know about every single thing that is constantly created. So there's no one here on the earth that I've met yet that can actually release such information and data. So it lets us know that this is really limitless. So we need to see ourselves on the path, and the division that we face, this is when we encounter another part of the expansive level of self within the DNA and in all the genes and all the things and chemicals that we don't even understand yet. But when we encounter it, we still know that we're on this path to wholeness. So this has a tendency to keep you out of the fear frequency. You cannot approach all the self-concepts in the fear frequency. There's also a technique, which is you make sure that when you're observing something, like the news, that you come out of the physical, emotional self and don't get on the roller coaster of them showing you all the doom and gloom and the destruction of the world. See, people take information different kind of ways. Some may look at the news and say, oh, it's all BS, and then get mad and upset about that, but now they're engaged. They may also look at the news and say, oh my goodness, this is happening, this is place, it's just like the New Testament, just like the old Revelations, oh my goodness. But it's still causing the same energy. So if you want to cut through all of this, like these kind of long messages about expansion, you just understand that the fear is the control point for them. So once you have no fear, then your frequency raises into a harmonic that they cannot reach. It is painful for them to go there. And that is a part of this conversation today, to explain to people that lower frequency beings, higher frequency is painful to them. So they avoid it. Now, that also says something deeper, because we all can attest that we've been on low frequencies before. And some of us are on low frequencies now. So when you're trying to get to a higher frequency, it may be a little painful in the sense of, if you have to fast, that's a little painful. You don't want to do that. If you have to let go of certain CDs, your mind's like, oh no, come on, that's our favorite song. You see? So there's the pain in the separation, but it's not a separation, I come to tell you. It's actually a harmony. It's the blending of when the one form comes closer to the other form and then creates another entire collection of the existence. So this is how I believe we've been powering ourselves throughout the universe into more experiences, by the way. So I have some notes, okay? So I'll go with those, and let me get you off the directive here. But again, the last thing is, but not least at all, to liberate minds, bodies, and souls while continuing towards wholeness. This is a major thing, because you have to have a purpose in all this if you really want to tap into the energy sources that we're accustomed to using. They're ethereal energy sources. And I'll talk about that. Ethereal energy source. This means you can't really see it with your naked eye. I'm going to tell you when that manifests, because when you have a brilliant idea, or when you are collected maybe a large sum of money, or when you've met a female or a male that you feel is your match, that day and that moment, you're able to generate so much energy just off the idea that it has seemed to power you and push you into another frequency. Okay? So now you're seeing that ideas control frequency, so thoughts can control frequency too. From every part of this vehicle, mind, body, and soul, the frequency can be controlled. And this is why you have to make sure that there's always guardians at your gate. Meaning you as the guard at your gate of the mind, body, and soul, saying, hey, whatever you take in here now, I need to see, I need to check, let me look. Let me look in the bag. What's all the way in there? Well, why are you acting like this? It's because we've had several breaches. We've had viruses contaminating the system. Do you know that back in the old days when ships traveled the ocean like planes do the sky now, that when a ship docked, especially in certain places, and the manifest of that ship said it came from a certain place, you could not board the land until you went to 3 weeks of quarantine. this is a metaphor also for how long it should take for us to allow certain things to board our vessel. And also who needs to walk off the deck, or what needs to walk off the plank. Meaning what we need to throw overboard in the ocean that we're cruising around in, called the limitless universe.